In today's lesson, we will learn about the human tongue. Let's go. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Do you know the slimy thing, the thing that sits in your mouth? Yes, of course, we are talking about your human tongue. The human tongue is responsible for one of the 5 main senses, 5 deria, we call it in DM, of your body. Okay, so your tongue is responsible for your sense of taste, deria rasa. Okay, so if you look closely into your tongue, if you zoom into a tongue, you should be able to see fiber-like things there. So those are what we call papilla. Okay, so why do we have so many of it? Because on each papilla, you have something what we call taste bud. Okay, or deria rasa in DM. Okay, so health tip for y'all, next time when you brush your teeth, don't forget to brush your papilla, because when you are brushing your teeth, you're only brushing 10% of the germs in your mouth. When you brush your teeth, you're cleaning the remaining 90%. So have you ever wondered why your breath stinks? It is because of your papilla, because of your tongue. So remember to brush your tongue. Okay, anyway, getting back into our lesson, let's look at the first point. The surface of our tongue has many papilla, and each papilla contains hundreds of taste buds. So these taste buds are what enable us to taste something, or we call it tunas rasa in DM. Okay, permukaan lidah mempunyai banyak papilla dan setiap papilla mengandungi ratusan tunas rasa. If you put this together, we have millions of taste buds on your tongue. This is why we are able to taste so many awesome food around us. We cannot only just rely on our tongue. If you look closely into our papilla, you should be able to see something called your salivary gland, or in BM we call it kelenjar liur. So what is this thing? This thing will secrete that fluid inside your mouth. We call it saliva. So that would bring me to my point 2. The salivary gland secretes saliva. Kelenjar liur menghasilkan air liur. So what is this function of your saliva? Your saliva has 2 functions. Number 1 is to dissolve your food so that they can stimulate your taste bud, which we will get into that later. And your saliva also contains enzyme. What is that? We will have to do that in another video. Alright, so how our tongue tastes food. So how does this saliva works? We have to look at this flow chart here, and I want you to pay close attention to this flow chart, because this is the most common thing that they ask in exam. Alright, so first step, when you put food into your mouth, you have saliva. So the saliva's job, first thing, is to dissolve the food. So that will be my first point. Chemicals in the food dissolve in saliva. Okay, have you ever noticed whatever dry food you eat, when you put it into your mouth, the food will turn wet because we cannot sense something that is dry. Okay, bahan kimia di makanan melarut di dalam air liur. This is why you need your saliva. Next, let's look at the second step. What happens next? Chemicals stimulate the taste receptor in the taste bud. After dissolving in the saliva, the saliva, which contains the chemical, will stimulate all these tiny taste buds, millions of them if you still remember them, located on your papilla. Or in BM we say bahan kimia merangsangkan reseptor pada tunas rasa. This is when your taste bud has receptors. They will change this signal into an electrical impulse. That will be my next point. Receptors produce nerve impulse and send to brain. Receptor menjanakan impuls saraf dan menghantarkannya ke otak. So why do that? Okay, these go for all receptors. Your brain can only recognize electrical signal. Electrical signal is like the only language your brain understands. If you send a taste signal up there, your brain will be like, what? They don't understand. So this receptor sort of acts like a translator. They will translate whatever signal into an electrical impulse, and they send it to your brain. Your brain will be like, now I get it. So the last step would be the brain will interpret your taste. Otak mentafsirkan rasa. This is when your brain tells you whether this food is nice or not. Taste is a very subjective thing. Okay, so what makes ice cream taste good to some people? Okay, I don't believe anyone who hates ice cream. Okay, let's just take a very controversial food. One food that I would like to point out here is our coriander, okay, or we call it cilantro. Okay, so what is that? Cilantro, whenever you eat Hainanese chicken rice, the leafy thing that's on there, that would be our coriander. So what makes some of us love coriander and some of us absolutely hate it? This is actually genetic thing. Some of us are born with certain receptors on our tongue that makes coriander taste like soap. For example, I don't have the receptor. How do I know? Because coriander doesn't taste like soap to me. Maybe it tastes like soap to you, that's why you absolutely hate it, or you like eating soap. I'm not going to judge you. Okay, so this is a very subjective thing. Okay, so let's go to the next part. That would be the 5 tastes that we can sense. So there are 5 tastes that can be sensed by the taste receptor, which is sweet, manis, salty, masin, sour, masam, bitter, pahit, and umami, which you are scratching your head, okay, what the hell is that? Now, let's look at the map on our tongue. As you can see, manis, which is sweet, is located at the front of your tongue. Does it mean only the front of your tongue can taste sweetness? No, the whole part of your tongue can taste sweetness. It's just that the front part is more sensitive towards sweetness. Lebih peka terhadap rasa manis. This is the quick way to memorize. You use the front part of your tongue to lick an ice cream. This is why sweetness, they are located in front of your tongue. Next, the side of the tongue is responsible for masin or salty. When you eat savory food, when you taste soy sauce, this is where it is very sensitive towards. Moving on, the most side of the tongue is responsible for masam or sour. This is why when you taste sour food, it feels a bit painful here. This is because one thing is because of the saliva coming out from your salivary gland. Second thing, it's when your side of the tongue gets very stimulated. Next, we move into pahit, which is bitter. Bitter is located at the back part of the tongue. Quick way to memorize this, the opposite of sweetness, which is in front, is opposite to the back. Therefore, sweetness is opposite to bitterness. That is a very easy way to remember. Last but not least, let us look at this very funny flavor, we call it umami. As you see in the name, umami is a Japanese word because umami is found by a Japanese. According to them, when you stimulate this umami, umami is located on every part of your tongue, by the way. When you stimulate your umami sense, every flavor gets enhanced. Every flavor gets better. Sweeter stuff tastes sweeter. Sour stuff tastes more sour, and it goes on. So umami is a very special, we call it the 5th sense. You might say, what is this, sir? There is a very special substance that stimulates umami that is known as MSG. I'm sure you have heard it in a certain video by Uncle Roger that says,
Hiya, where your MSG? You don't use MSG, how to make good egg fried rice?
we Asians need our MSG. Alright, so let's move into the points. Okay, the sense of smell improves the sense of taste. Sense of smell is handled by our nose, which is our deria bau, our hidung. That will be another part of this chapter. So, please take note of the next point. This is the point that is also the most frequently asked in exam. Food seems tasteless when we have a cold. Cold being selesema. It means when you have a flu. Because smell from food cannot reach the sensory cell in the nose. Why? Because when you have flu, your nose has a lot of mucus. You are having a hard time to breathe due to the passage being blocked by excessive mucus. Hidung dihalang oleh mucus yang terlalu banyak. This is why when the smell dissolves in your mucus, it cannot reach the smell receptor at the top of your nasal cavity. This is why food seems a bit tasteless. Nose smells something good, it will stimulate your salivary gland to start producing saliva. This is why I always say your nose and your eye will eat first before your mouth. Let us get into the exercise. How do exercise and exam look like? Let's look at the question. The figure below shows parts of the tongue. Raja menunjukkan bahagian pada lidah. So you have M, N, O, P, Q over here. State the stimulus that can be detected by the parts labeled above. As we know, M is bitter or pahit. O, that would be our salty or masin. Q would be our umami. Because they are pointing at a certain part of the tongue or the middle of the tongue, it means the whole tongue, which is your umami. So N, that would be our sour or masam. And of course, last but not least, P would be our sweet or manis. Okay, so that will be a very typical question in your exam. Moving on, let's look at examples. Match the parts of the tongue that is with the correct taste of food. So chocolate cake, as we know, this is sweet, so it is detected by part E. Salted egg, which is salty, will be detected by part B. Black coffee, which is bitter, will be detected by part A. And of course, unripe mango, which is sour, will be detected by part C. Next question. What is the purpose of saliva in the mouth? As I've mentioned there, this is for food to dissolve in. Untuk melarutkan makanan. Or you can say to dissolve food, which is the same meaning. The next question, how do we detect the taste of food? As you can see, you have 3 points here, so you should give 3 points there. Alright, so how do we detect the taste of food? First, food dissolves in saliva. Next, your saliva stimulates the taste bud. And then the taste bud sends nerve impulse. Or you can say electrical impulse, that will be the same meaning, to the brain. For BM, makanan terlarut di dalam air liur. Next, air liur merangsangkan tunas rasa. The last point, tunas rasa menghantar impuls saraf ke otak. One more point I wish to point out here, tunas rasa or taste bud would be the key word in questions like this. If you don't mention tunas rasa or taste bud, your answer would be wrong. Moving on. Question H, or this should be a question E. My mistake. Alright, Shah is having a flu. He cannot smell his food well and finds the food less tasty. My mistake again. Explain. Shah mengalami selesema, tidak dapat membawa makanan dengan elok, mendapatkan bawa makanan berasa tawar. Jelaskan. So this is what we were talking about. That is your nose. So when you have flu, during cold, nose produces too much mucus. In BM, that would be terlalu banyak mucus. Next point, the chemical substance in smell cannot reach the smell receptors. Bahan kimia di dalam bau tidak dapat mencapai receptor bawah. That's why you cannot smell anything. Next, why does food taste better when it is warm? Mengapakah makanan berasa lebih sedap apabila panas? So when this is something to do with your smell receptor, when a food is warm, it travels faster in the air. This is why it tastes better. When food is warm, chemical substance travels faster to our nose. Apabila makanan suam or panas in this case, bahan kimia sampai ke hidung dengan lebih laju. Moving on. In an investigation, a student used a tissue to dry tongue. Then he put the candy on his tongue. Can the student taste the candy? Explain your answer. Mengeringkan lidahnya dengan kertas tisu, meletakkan gula-gula pada lidahnya. Bolehkah merasakan gula-gula? Of course, when your mouth is dry, can you taste anything? Obviously not. Without the saliva, it cannot stimulate your taste bud. This is why you taste nothing. This is why when you have no appetite, when you don't produce saliva, dry food tastes awful. The answer would be no. There is no saliva to dissolve the food and stimulate the taste bud. Tidak. Tiada air liur untuk melarutkan makanan dan merangsangkan tunas rasa. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope this video is helpful. If it is, don't like, share and subscribe. If you are interested in signing up for my live class, kindly go to ttceducation.org. Links in the description. Take care. I will see you in the next video. Ciao.